I never thought in a million years that I'd wake up on my wedding day checking the weather, only to end up discovering that my bride-to-be had taken off with her old flame. There I stood, completely humiliated, abandoned at the altar in front of every familiar face in my life. That moment shattered something in me, and I told myself right then, I'd never let anyone get that close again. But then her sister showed up at my doorstep, holding a dish of lasagna and a truth so heavy, it would flip my whole world upside down. People always say that revenge is best served cold, but what if it comes in the form of comfort food and a revelation instead? What if the real mistake was the wrong sister saying yes in the first place? I'm Landon Hendricks, 33 years old, and up until half a year ago, I was managing construction projects for one of the biggest development companies in Salt Lake City. My days were spent drafting blueprints for high-rises and planning forever with the woman I believed was the love of my life. These days, I spend more time wondering how I could have been so completely off the mark. The church that day looked like something out of a magazine. Sunlight poured through the stained glass windows, throwing colored patterns across the wooden pews packed with our loved ones. My best friend Lucas was right beside me at the altar, giving me shoulder pats and cracking jokes about how I was finally settling down. I barely heard a word he said. All I could focus on was the image of Chloe walking down that aisle to become my wife. 2 o'clock rolled around, then 2:20. The string quartet had already gone through their playlist twice. Around 2:30, the murmurs began. By 2:40, my mom was gripping my dad's hand so tightly his knuckles were white. Chloe's parents kept checking their phones, caught somewhere between confused and embarrassed. "She's probably just having trouble with the dress," Lucas whispered, but the confidence in his voice was fading fast. At 2:55, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. Every head in the room turned toward me as I slowly pulled it out, still clinging to some last bit of hope. The message had 3 lines. "I can't do this. I'm really sorry. Please don't try to find me." I read those words twice, convinced I must be misreading them. But then that awful coldness spread through my chest like I'd just been hit with a ton of bricks. I handed the phone to Lucas. His face said it all. "What do I do?" I whispered, feeling like I wasn't even in my own body anymore. "You have to tell them," he said quietly. So I turned around to face a room full of people, all staring at me with expectant eyes, and suddenly my throat felt like sandpaper. "I appreciate you all being here," I said, my voice eerily calm to my own ears. "But there won't be a wedding today. Chloe isn't coming." The collective gasp was like all the air got sucked out of the room at once. People started whispering. Some stood up. Others looked away, clearly uncomfortable. Chloe's mom broke down in tears. Her dad pulled out his phone, probably trying to reach her. People started filing out, offering condolences like I'd just lost a loved one. And in a way, I had. Out of everyone, only one person came up to me directly. Sierra Delgado, Chloe's younger sister, pushed through the awkward crowd and grabbed both my hands. "Landon, I'm so sorry," she said, her eyes filled with real emotion, not that fake sympathy everyone else had. "This is beyond wrong. What am I supposed to do?" I couldn't even get the words out properly. I just shook my head and walked away from it all, left the flowers, the cake, the music, all the dreams I thought I was about to step into. She left me standing there, and in that moment, I couldn't imagine ever coming back from it. That entire week after the non-wedding is still a blur in my mind. I left the church and went straight to a liquor store, then locked myself inside my apartment. That same night, Lucas came over, took one look at me sprawled out on the couch with a half-drunk bottle of whiskey, and didn't even hesitate. He snatched my car keys right out of my hand. "This isn't the way to deal with it," he said, pouring the rest of the liquor down the sink no matter how much I protested. I snapped at him, lashed out even, but he didn't take the bait. He just ordered pizza, put on a football game, and sat with me in silence. By morning, the hangover hit like a freight train. I called in and took a week off, something I'd never done before. When I finally dragged myself back to work, I buried myself in it. I was the first one in and the last one out, running on fumes. I dropped 14 pounds that first month. What stung even more than the heartbreak were the looks I got from people at work. Sad, awkward glances that reminded me every day of what happened. No one had any news about Chloe. It was like she disappeared. Her social media pages went private overnight. Her parents were just as shocked as I was. They called several times, her mom sobbing, her dad offering a stiff apology for something that wasn't even his fault. "She's made a huge mistake, Landon," her dad had said. "We already thought of you as part of the family." After a while, I just stopped picking up their calls. Every time we talked, it ripped open the same wounds I was trying to stitch closed. Then, About 4 weeks after the wedding someone rang my doorbell. At first, I didn't even want to get up to answer it. I'd been avoiding everyone, dodging friends, ignoring my mom's texts, even turning down invites from Lucas. But there she was, Sierra Delgado, standing in the hallway with a casserole dish in her hands and a look in her eyes that told me she wasn't leaving. "You look awful," she said, stepping right past me into the apartment like she belonged there. "Thanks," I muttered, brushing my hand through my greasy hair. "When's the last time you ate something that didn't come from the microwave?" she asked, peeling the foil off the dish. The smell of homemade lasagna hit me like a punch to the gut, and my stomach growled loud enough to embarrass me. She moved around my kitchen like she'd done it before, pulling out plates and utensils. I stood there like a statue, suddenly aware of how unshaven and disheveled I looked in my wrinkled sweatpants. "Why are you here, Sierra?" I finally asked as she shoved a plate into my hands. She looked straight at me, so much like Chloe and yet nothing like her. Where Chloe had this polished charm, Sierra was all real, no filters. "Because someone has to make sure you don't fall apart," she said. "And because I have something you need to hear, something about Chloe." My chest tightened. "Is she all right?" I asked, even though I hated that I still cared. Sierra's expression softened. "She's okay. But what she did to you, there's more to it, and you need to know." I sat across from her at the kitchen table. My plate of lasagna sat mostly untouched. I'd lost my appetite the moment she started talking. She kept twisting her napkin in her hands, eyes glued to it. Whatever was coming next, it wasn't going to be good. "Just spit it out," I finally said, trying to brace myself. Sierra inhaled deeply. "Brandon Scott. That's the reason she left." The moment she said his name, it felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Brandon, Chloe's ex before she and I met. The guy she always said she escaped from. The one she swore she'd buried in the past. "What about him?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "She never stopped seeing him, Landon." Sierra met my eyes, regret pouring from hers. "She was still involved with him the whole time you two were together." I shoved my chair back and stood. "That's not possible. We lived together for over a year. We were planning our future." My voice cracked. "She was living a double life," Sierra said softly. "Most of those business trips? She was with him. Girls' nights? Yeah, with him too." My brain scrambled to replay every red flag I dismissed. The late-night messages she'd hide. The random weekend trips she couldn't explain. That strange shift in her mood whenever she came back. I had trusted her without question. Ignored my gut. "How long have you known?" I asked, my temper building. I had a feeling for a while, but I didn't get confirmation until a month before the wedding. She looked down, ashamed. I confronted her, she went on. Told her she had to come clean or call it off. She promised she'd break things off with Brandon. I laughed, dry and bitter. Well, she definitely ended something. Didn't think she'd choose our wedding day to do it. Sierra's voice trembled. "I'm sorry, Landon. I really am. I should have told you sooner." My fist came down hard on the counter, making both of us jump. "You're absolutely right. You should have. Do you have any idea what it felt like? Standing there like a fool while everyone stared at me with pity?" Sierra winced, but didn't back down. "You're right. I deserve that." The heat drained out of me. I couldn't hold it against Sierra. It wasn't her doing. "She didn't betray me alone," I muttered. "But you didn't help either." I let out a sigh. "Where is she now?" "With him." "That's the last I heard," she said quietly. "Ran off with him, huh?" I said, my voice flat. Sierra nodded. "She left town right after that." After leaving me standing there in front of everybody, I added. She looked genuinely crushed. "Dad's furious. Mom's heartbroken. No one saw this coming." She hesitated for a second. "They were all shocked, just like you. They loved you, Landon. Still do." I rubbed my face, suddenly feeling like I hadn't slept in days. The truth hit hard, but oddly, it was a relief too. At least now I knew it wasn't about anything I did or didn't do. Chloe had been lying to me the entire time. "Why are you telling me all this?" I asked. "Why now?" Sierra met my gaze with calm conviction. "Because you deserve the truth. And because I couldn't keep watching you blame yourself when she's the one who wrecked everything." I studied her face. For the first time, I realized the sincerity in Sierra's eyes, the same sincerity I used to think I saw in Chloe's. How did I miss this in her all along? "Thanks," I said quietly, "for telling me. And for the lasagna." A faint smile appeared. "Least I could do." "No," I said, something dawning on me. The least would have been nothing. Everyone else had done just that nothing. After that night, something shifted between Sierra and me. She started stopping by now and then, always with an excuse. Leftover pasta, extra casserole, just happened to be nearby. We both knew those reasons were just cover, but I never called her on it. Truth be told, I looked forward to seeing her. She didn't tiptoe around me like everyone else. Didn't give me sympathy speeches or try to push me toward dating apps. She just showed up when the silence in my apartment got too heavy. "You need a hobby," she announced one evening, glancing around my bare living room. "Something other than working yourself into exhaustion." "Oh yeah? Like what? Stamp collecting? Macrame?" I rolled my eyes. "How about rock climbing?" she said, pulling out her phone and showing me a local gym. "I go twice a week. Best stress relief out there." And that's how I found myself the next day, strapped into a harness, staring up at a wall that looked about 5 stories high. "You sure about this?" I asked while Sierra double-checked my gear. "Scared, Hendrix?" she teased with a grin. I'd always been the competitive type. "Lead the way, Delgado." To my own surprise, I loved it. The physical challenge, the focus it demanded, it cleared my head in a way I hadn't felt in months. All I could think about was the next handhold. By the time I got down, my whole body ached, but my mind? It was the calmest it had been in ages. "Told you," Sierra said with a smug grin as we left the gym, both of us drenched in sweat and totally spent. Climbing turned into our thing. Twice a week, without fail, we'd meet up, tackle the wall, then grab dinner afterward. I started building my work schedule around those nights. I found myself looking forward to them. Even Lucas noticed the shift. One day on the job site, he looked at me and said, "You seem like you're doing better." And he was right. I was doing better. That constant pressure in my chest had started to ease. I didn't check my phone hoping to see Chloe's name anymore. I was finally sleeping again. One night, after we'd climbed and were scarfing down greasy burgers at a little dive bar, Sierra hit me with a question no one else had dared ask. "Do you still love her?" I thought about dodging it, but Sierra deserved honesty. "I loved who I thought she was," I said eventually. "But that person? She never really existed." Sierra gave me a small nod like she understood. "Do you hate her?" I tried, I admitted. "But hate takes too much energy. I'd rather not waste any more of that on her." "Good answer," she said, stealing one of my fries with a grin. "Too many people get stuck in that place." I looked at her then, really looked, and realized how much I'd come to rely on her presence. She had this steady calm about her that Chloe never did. "Must be kinda strange for you," I said, "spending time with your sister's ex-fiancé." She shrugged. "Ex-almost brother-in-law," she corrected with a half-smile. "And no, not weird. Unless," she paused, "unless it's weird for you, since I'm her sister." I shook my head without hesitation. "You're nothing like her, Sierra. That's been pretty obvious." Her eyes met mine, and for a second, something passed between us, something unspoken. Then she smirked, snatched another fry, and the moment passed. "Good," she said, "because you still owe me a rematch on that blue route." Later, as we headed to our cars, she paused before getting into hers. "Landon," she said, suddenly serious, "I just want you to know, I'm not doing this out of guilt or pity. I actually enjoy hanging out with you." Her words caught me off guard in the best way. "I know," I said. "Me too." She gave a little nod. "All right then. See you Thursday." Wouldn't miss it. Driving home, I realized something crazy. That whole night, I hadn't thought about Chloe once. Not a single time. My head had been filled with Sierra, her laugh, her grit, the way her eyes lit up when she made it to the top of a hard climb. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I knew it meant something. 2 months had passed since the wedding that wasn't, and I'd finally found my rhythm again. The Ellington project was running ahead of schedule, mostly because I'd been throwing myself into work. My boss even hinted I might be up for a promotion soon. Instead of stress weight, I'd put on muscle. Climbing with Sierra 3 times a week had done the trick. One Friday evening, I was halfway up a new route, pretty tough one, when I heard a familiar voice call up from below. "Still climbing like a rookie, Hendrix?" I glanced down and saw Lucas, grinning up at me. But standing next to him? Chloe's dad, Daniel Delgado. That broke my focus. My foot slipped, and for a second, I was dangling by one hand 22 feet in the air. But I steadied my breathing, found my footing, and climbed the rest of the way. When I came down, I braced myself. "Mr. Delgado," I said, extending my hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Call me Daniel, son," he replied. "Sierra mentioned you climb here." He looked apologetic. "I hope it's okay I stopped by." Lucas picked up on the tension. "I'll go check the gear," he said, making himself scarce. Daniel looked worn, like he hadn't been sleeping much. Sierra tells me you're doing well. I'm glad to hear it. I gave a nod, not sure what else to say. This man had almost been my father-in-law. I wanted to apologize again, he said. What Chloe did, it was unforgivable. It wasn't your fault, I said, keeping my tone steady. He hesitated before continuing. She's been asking about you. I didn't say anything. She and the guy she left you for are falling apart. Now she remembers what she walked away from. Not long ago, that would have knocked the wind out of me. But now, all I felt was pity. I've moved on, I told him plainly. Daniel gave a satisfied nod. Good man. Then he hesitated again. I also told her you've been spending time with Sierra. That made me pause. We're friends, I said quickly. Are you? He asked, raising an eyebrow. Because my youngest daughter? She lights up when she talks about you. That's something I never saw with Chloe. Before I could figure out what to say, Sierra showed up. She looked surprised to see her dad. After he left, she turned to me, eyeing me with suspicion. What did he say to you? Nothing important, I said. And yeah, I lied. Ready to climb, I said, and later that night, after dinner at our usual spot, we walked out toward our cars. The air between us was calm, easy, but something had shifted. I couldn't stop hearing Daniel's words in my head. Sierra, I said out of nowhere, why do you really hang out with me? She stopped and looked at me. What do you mean? Is it because you feel guilty? Or sorry for me? Or like you have to? Her cheeks turned red. No, none of that. Then what is it? She took a slow breath. I've always had feelings for you, Landon. Even when you were with Chloe. Her words just sat there, heavy in the silence. Strangely, I wasn't shocked. Deep down, maybe I'd already felt it. You probably think I'm terrible, she went on fast. Liking my sister's fiancé? But I never acted on it. I respected your relationship. And after what she did, Sierra shook her head. I just wanted to be there for you. The feelings, they came after. I stepped a little closer. So why tell me now? Because I can't fake it anymore, she said. And if that means we can't even be friends. I cut her off. What if I don't want to just be friends? Her expression dropped like she misunderstood. I get it, she said softly. No, I said. What if I want more? She froze. Her eyes went wide. Landon, don't say that unless you really mean it. Not because you're lonely or just needing something. I do mean it, I said. I've never been more sure about anything. Right then, under those parking lot lights, I realized the truth. I'd started falling for Sierra Delgado the moment she showed up at my door with that lasagna, and the truth I wasn't ready to hear. We decided to take things slow. But the connection between us? It was real. It was there. At first, we kept it quiet. Still climbed together, still grabbed dinner. But now, the energy between us had changed. A few weeks in, I was back at the job site, going over blueprints with my crew when I got a text from Lucas. Heads up. Chloe's back in town. My stomach dropped, but not from missing her. It was dread. I didn't want anything to pull me back into that mess. That afternoon, I was halfway up the 12th floor, checking steel beams, when one of the guys yelled up, Hendricks. Someone here to see you. I looked down and saw her, Chloe, standing there on the edge of the site in heels that made no sense for the setting. Even from up high, I saw heads turning. She always had that effect. I could have told the crew I was busy, but instead, I clipped into my harness and rappelled down the building, drawing some cheers from the guys as I landed. I unhooked and walked over, muscles stronger now, more sure of myself than she remembered. Nice entrance, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. What do you want, Chloe? I asked, straight to the point. Her smile wobbled. Can we talk somewhere private? Whatever you need to say, you can say it right here. She glanced around at the guys, who were definitely pretending not to listen. Landon, please. I made a huge mistake. Brandon dumped you? I asked coldly. That's not what happened, she snapped. I just realized what I lost. What we had was real. No, I said. It wasn't. You were lying to me the whole time. I've changed, she said, stepping closer and touching my arm. I know what I want now. Who I want. I pulled back. I'm seeing someone. Her eyes widened. Already? Who? I paused, then decided she deserved the truth. Sierra. Her face twisted, shock, disbelief, then anger. My sister? You're dating my sister? Yes, I said simply. She was after you the whole time, wasn't she? Her voice rose. Even when we were engaged. I clenched my jaw. Unlike you, Sierra respected our relationship. She never crossed a line, not once, until long after you left me standing alone at the altar. You can't be serious about her, Chloe scoffed. She's just Sierra. The way she said her sister's name, like it meant nothing, that lit something in me. Sierra is honest. She's loyal. She's real, I said, voice firm. Everything you only pretended to be. She's everything you never were. Chloe's face froze. My parents will never accept this. Dating your ex-fiancé's sister? That's messed up, Chloe snapped. Your father already knows, I replied calmly. And unlike you, he actually cares about both of his daughters' happiness. This isn't over, she said, spinning on her heel. It's been over, I called after her, since the day you sent that text, Chloe. You made your choice. And now I've made mine. I watched her storm off, expecting some kind of emotional wave pain, maybe regret. But it never came. All I felt was relief. Pure, solid certainty that I was finally right where I was supposed to be. That night, I sat down with Sierra and told her everything. I didn't want any secrets between us. She listened without interrupting, her expression steady. Then she asked quietly, "Are you sure about us?" It could make things complicated with my family. I reached across the table and took her hand. I've never been more sure of anything. Your family will come around. And if they don't, we'll deal with that together. She gave me a small smile and squeezed my hand. Together, then. And in that moment, I realized that what had felt like the worst day of my life, being abandoned at the altar, had actually led me straight to something real, something lasting. And it came from the last person I ever expected. The weeks after my run-in with Chloe flew by. Sierra and I dropped the whole just friends charade, and our relationship blossomed. We still went rock climbing, but now there were fancy dinners, lazy weekends hiking in the mountains, and long nights talking about everything under the stars. One night while we were lounging on my couch, my phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. "You two lovebirds up for dinner Friday? Aubrey wants to meet the woman who finally made you smile again." Sierra peeked over my shoulder. "Your best friend's approval?" "That's serious stuff," she said with a teasing grin. But I saw the question behind her eyes. "You already have it," I told her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Lucas thinks you're the best thing that's ever happened to me." "And what do you think?" she asked, her tone soft but serious. I took her hand and looked her in the eye. "I think you saved me, not just from wallowing in heartbreak, but from settling for something less than I deserve." She leaned against me, resting her head on my shoulder. "We saved each other," she whispered. "I was always the responsible sister, the reliable one. But with you, I feel like myself, not an afterthought." "You could never be an afterthought to me," I said, and realized how deeply I meant it. That night changed things. We stopped tiptoeing around the past. Chloe wasn't a forbidden topic anymore, just someone we both used to know. Then came the news. The Ellington project wrapped up early and under budget, earning me a nice bonus. That Friday afternoon, my boss called me into his office. "Outstanding work, Hendricks," he said, sliding an envelope across his desk. "The clients were impressed, and the board has signed off on your promotion, senior project manager." "Thank you, sir," I said, pride swelling in my chest. "There's more," he continued. "We're expanding into Portland. We need someone to head up operations there. Better pay, more responsibility. It's yours, if you want it." Portland. A fresh start in a new city. 7 months ago, I would have leapt at the chance. But now, my first thought was Sierra. "I'll need a little time to think it over," I told him. That evening, I took Sierra back to the restaurant where we'd had our first real date. After dinner, I shared the news. "That's incredible, Landon," she said, beaming. "You deserve it." "There's a catch," I admitted. "I'd have to move." Her smile faded slightly. "When would you go?" "That depends," I said, reaching for her hand. "On whether you'd consider coming with me." Her eyes widened. "Landon, are you asking me to move to Portland?" "I'm asking for more than that," I said, heart pounding. I slid out of the booth and dropped to one knee, pulling out the small velvet box I'd been carrying for days. I know it's fast, and I know people might talk, but I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I opened the box to reveal a simple emerald ring. "Sierra Delgado, will you marry me?" The look on her face, pure shock, followed by joy, and then this deep, unwavering certainty, burned itself into my memory. "Yes," she whispered, not a second of hesitation. We celebrated with champagne, giddy and laughing, both of us amazed at what we'd found in each other after such a mess. But the next morning, reality knocked. "We need to tell my parents," Sierra said. My stomach twisted. Daniel and Margaret Delgado had almost been my in-laws once. Now, just 7 months later, I was asking for their blessing to marry their other daughter. "Together," I said firmly. That Sunday, we drove to their restaurant before opening hours. Margaret opened the door and froze when she saw us standing there, holding hands. "We need to talk to you and Daniel," Sierra said. She led us to a corner booth where Daniel sat going over the books. He looked up as we approached, his expression unreadable. "Mr. and Mrs. Delgado," I started, suddenly feeling like I was 20 again. "I know this is probably a shock." "Not entirely," Daniel cut in, exchanging a quick look with Margaret. I nodded, taking a breath. "I've asked Sierra to marry me, and she said yes. We'd like your blessing." Silence fell for a beat. Margaret glanced between the two of us, her brows drawing tight. "This is very sudden. Is this because of Chloe?" Daniel asked bluntly, eyes locked on mine. "Some kind of revenge?" "Dad," Sierra said, clearly upset. But I held up a hand. "It's a fair question," I said, meeting Daniel's gaze. "But no, sir. What I felt for Chloe, it wasn't real. Because she was never really honest with me. What Sierra and I have, it came from something real, friendship. And it's grown into something I never expected. There's no revenge here. Just two people who found something good in the middle of a mess." Daniel looked at Sierra. "And you're sure this isn't about competing with your sister?" "I've never competed with Chloe," Sierra said, steady and sure. "You know that. I love Landon for who he is, not because of who used to be with him." Margaret reached out and gently touched Sierra's hand, where the emerald ring sparkled. "It's beautiful," she said softly. "Different than what Chloe had." "That was on purpose," I said. "We wanted a fresh start. New traditions." Daniel let out a long breath. "People are going to talk." "Let him," I replied. "We know the truth." "Chloe's going to be hurt," Margaret warned. "She gave up the right to have a say in my life when she walked out on me at the altar," I said. My voice came out firmer than I intended, but I didn't take it back. To my surprise, Daniel chuckled. "Can't argue with that." He looked at Margaret, and something passed silently between them. Then he reached across and shook my hand. "You're a good man, Landon. You always were. If my daughter loves you, and you love her, then you have our blessing." Margaret took a little longer, but by the time we left, she'd hugged us both and already started tossing out ideas for the wedding. In the car, Sierra let out a breath. "That went better than I thought it would." "Your dad's a reasonable guy," I said. "He can see we're happy." She squeezed my hand. "So, Portland, if you want to go. Or we can stay. I'll turn down the job offer." "No way," she said, shaking her head. "This is our fresh start." And honestly, she added with a grin, "I've always wanted to live somewhere it rains more than it snows." As we drove home, I thought about how full circle everything had come. Just 7 months ago, I was standing alone at the altar thinking my life had fallen apart. Now here I was, planning a new life, a new home, and a future with the one person who'd been quietly in my corner the whole time. The weeks that followed were a blur, accepting the Portland job, scrolling through real estate listings, and pulling together a small wedding before the move. We didn't want anything fancy, just something simple and intimate with the people who truly mattered. 2 months isn't much time, Sierra said one afternoon as we walked through a small chapel. "I don't want to wait," I told her, wrapping my arms around her. "Me either," she said. "We've wasted enough time already." We decided on a July wedding, right before the big move in August. Everything was lining up perfectly, until Chloe showed up at my place one night. I was alone. Sierra was out with her mom, trying on dresses. "We need to talk," Chloe said, pushing past me like she owned the place. Her eyes landed on the stacked moving boxes and she stopped. "You're moving." "Portland," I answered. "Got a new job?" Her eyes drifted to the framed picture of Sierra and me on the table. Her face tightened. "So it's true. You're really marrying my sister." "Yes," I said simply. I wasn't about to explain myself. "You can't possibly love her," she snapped. "This is about punishing me." I nearly laughed. "Chloe, not everything is about you. Hasn't been for a long time." "What about what she did to me?" she demanded. "My own sister stealing my fiancé. That was it. I'd had enough." "First off, I'm not surprised to be stolen," I said. "Second, you gave up any right to me when you ran off with Brandon. And third, Sierra didn't take anything. She showed up when I needed someone. She was honest. She was kind. And she didn't lie to me. We had history," she said, stepping closer. "Years together. You're really going to throw all that away?" "You threw it away," I said, my voice flat. "You ended it with a text. On our wedding day." She flinched. "I made a mistake." "No," I said, shaking my head. "Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. What you did was a choice. A bunch of choices. Over years. You lied to me. over and over. Oh, and Sierra's so perfect, she snapped, bitterness creeping in. She's not perfect, but she's real. I walked to the door and opened it, making my point clear. I'm marrying Sierra because I love her for who she is, not who I wish she was. That's something I never had with you. Chloe's eyes burned with a mix of pain and anger. You'll regret this. When the excitement fades, you'll see. Goodbye, Chloe, I said, firm as stone. She hesitated at the doorway. You know Mom's heartbroken over this. She'll never accept it. I gave a small smile. Actually, she's helping Sierra pick out wedding flowers tomorrow. Looks like she cares more about her daughter's happiness than what people might say. Maybe you could take a note from that. And with that, I closed the door on her stunned expression, like a chapter finally shut for good. I was ready to move forward, with Sierra, to Portland, and into a future built on truth and love that had grown the right way. Our wedding day was everything the last one wasn't. The skies were clear and the air warm, nothing like the gray storm that rolled in on the day Chloe left me. We picked a small mountain spot outside Salt Lake City. The ceremony was set for sunset, just the way Sierra wanted it. Inside the cabin where I was getting ready, I felt calm. None of the knots in my stomach like before. Lucas adjusted my tie with a grin. Nervous? Not even a little, I told him honestly. That's how you know it's right, he said, clapping me on the back. The ceremony was simple, just how he pictured it. About 35 people, close family and friends. Way different from the 180 guests Chloe had once planned. When Sierra stepped out, walking down the aisle with her dad, I couldn't breathe. She wore a simple white dress, her hair down, flowing naturally. Nothing like the made-up version Chloe had once imagined. Sierra was just Sierra, and she was beautiful. When it came time for my vows, my voice held steady. Sierra's eyes shimmered with tears as she promised to walk beside me no matter what life handed us. And when the officiant declared us husband and wife, the cheers weren't just polite, they were real. At the reception, Daniel came over, glass of champagne in hand. Never figured you'd end up my son-in-law after all, he said, smiling. Life's full of surprises, I replied. He nodded slowly. Sierra told me about what happened when Chloe came by. I want you to know, Margaret and I, we're proud of how you both handled it. Thank you, sir. That means a lot. He looked me straight in the eye. Take care of my daughter out there in Portland. She's always been strong, but she needs someone who sees her for who she is. I do, I said without hesitation. Every single day. Later that night, I held Sierra close during our first dance. It felt like the world had finally settled. She whispered into my chest, Are you happy? More than I ever thought possible, I said, and I meant it. 1 week later, we pulled up to our new townhouse in Portland. Rain was falling, of course, right on cue. Our U-Haul was packed full, but we were grinning like kids. The promotion came with a great raise, and our new place even had a view of the Sound. Home sweet home, Sierra said, slipping her fingers into mine. That first night, we laid on a mattress in the middle of the living room, boxes all around us, rain tapping on the windows. And I laid there thinking about how crazy life had been. 7 months ago, I stood alone at the altar thinking my life was over. But really, that was the beginning of something honest. Something lasting. See, the worst day of your life, if you let it, can steer you toward the best one. But you've got to stay open when every part of you wants to shut down. Sierra showed me that. And every single day with her proves that sometimes, life's biggest heartbreaks are just hidden detours to exactly where you're meant to be. My bride left me at the altar, and I ended up marrying her sister instead. Sounds like the setup for a bad joke. But it turned out to be the most honest love story I ever lived.